So my Pecha Kucha is on Ayn Rand, the philosopher. So she was born Eliza. I cannot pronounce her middle name, but it looks like Zinovena Rosenbaum on February 2nd, and she is a Russian American writer and philosopher. So she was born in Russia, St. Petersburg. At the time, it was known as Petrograd, and it's the second largest city in Russia. She actually ended up dying of heart failure March 6, 1982, at her home in New York City. So here is her tombstone along with her husband. So she was the eldest of three daughters, and her father was a pharmacist. Her mom was a very, very religious person. She when she talks about school, well, when she talked about school, she said that she found school unchallenging, and she actually used her time during class to write screenplays, which she began at the age of 8, and she started writing novels at the age of 10. She was 12 at the time of the February Revolution of 1917. She favored Alexander Kerensky over Tsar Nicholas at a very, very young age to have a political opinion that's pretty interesting. And the rule of Bolsheviks under Vladimir disrupted the life of her family that she previously had. Her father's business was confiscated, so the family had to flee to the Crimean Peninsula, and it was under the control of the White Army during the Russian Civil War. So while she was in high school, she actually realized she was an atheist, and it's kind of when her philosophy started, because she realized she valued reason above any other human virtue. She graduated from high school while she was still in the Crimean Peninsula, and she and her family actually ended up returning to St. Petersburg, which it had just been renamed. They faced a lot of struggles there. I think there was a lot about her and her family nearly starving during that time. So a big drastic change from when she was growing up. After the revolution, universities were finally opened up to women. So she was one of the first groups that was allowed to go to the university at Petrograd State. At the age of 16, she began her studies in the Department of Social Pedagogy, majoring in history. And then she was introduced to the writings of Aristotle and Plato, who would be her greatest influence and counter influence. So she loved Aristotle, but she thought Plato was just everything she did not want to be. She was granted a visa in 1925, and to visit her relatives in Chicago. When she then went to go visit New York City, and she was so impressed with the skyline that she actually cried when she saw it. She intended to stay in the United States to become a screenwriter. So she lived for a few months with her relatives, one who had a movie theater, and she would go in there and just watch movies all day for free. She actually then ended up leaving to Hollywood, California, and she met a director named Cecil, who let her work as an extra on the film The King of Kings. And then she actually got a job as a junior screenwriter. So while she was working on King of Kings, she met this actor named Frank O'Connor, and they got married on April 15, 1929. Through her marriage, she was able to become a permanent American resident. And then in July 1929, she became a citizen. She took lots and lots of jobs to support her writing, and even at one point working as the costume head of costume department. It took her 7 years to write The Fountainhead. She's known for The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. So The Fountainhead took her 7 years, and it's about an architect named Howard and his struggle with putting others above himself. To complete this novel, she actually had to get on certain drugs that she was prescribed to help her fight the fatigue and the exhaustion and keep her focused. But in this novel, you kind of start to see her putting her philosophy into writing, because this architect is struggling over, having others above, putting others above him. And this is where you start seeing, the rise of selfishness or self-interest. It actually became a movie, and she worked on the screenplay. So this leads us to Atlas Shrugged, which she considers, and many consider, her magnum opus. It's about a dystopian group of creative individuals. So there's scientists, architects, engineers who go on a strike to basically stop the exploitation of their creativity. Who is John Galt is a common statement made throughout the book, because he is someone who disappeared, and later they find out he's actually the leader of the strikes. So there's a theme brought up in the book where we're kind of seeing how we've been made to think, well, in the book, how they've been made to think that people like James Taggart, a president of a company who wants to, take money from the rich to make the poor richer, and Hank Rearden, who is a entrepreneur who creates this metal that's super safe and it's super durable, and he just wants to make money off of it. He wants to profit. He wants to make as much money out of it. And in the novel, your initial thoughts are, well, James is the good one, but it really leads you to believe that Hank is the good one, because he is fulfilling his life purpose, where James Taggart is trying to exploit that creativity that he has. The end of the book ends with a speech from John Galt, where he comes back to New York and he gives this long speech, which was a really, really good speech, about the overall theme of the book and honestly the philosophy of objectivism. He talks about how the minds were being controlled and people were made to think that these people who are really creative need to work for or need to be exploited, and it's okay, and they're made to look as the bad ones for wanting to be rewarded for their creativity. So it's a very good book that describes her overall view of objectivism. So just to read in this little excerpt that she wrote, my philosophy in essence is the concept of man as a heroic being with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity and reason as his only absolute. I just didn't feel like I could say it any better than she did. And obviously we have to give her credit for her words. So in a nutshell, this is what objectivism is. Ayn Rand is the most influential symbol of the greed is good and self-interest philosophy. The basic idea behind objectivism is rational self-interest, the notion that you should put yourself above all else. And this really stems from a belief in objective reality and man's capacity to reason. So it kind of all starts with reality. And in essence, reality is what it is. It exists as an objective absolute. Man's means of perceiving it does not affect reality. So it doesn't matter your perception, your views, your opinion, your morals. I mean, everything is what it is. A soda is a soda. Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. Things like that it's just facts. Basically what it's trying to say. And then that a philosophy not based on arbitrary, it's a philosophy that's not based on arbitrary things like emotion. Um, oh. So, reason is the only guide to action. Man must lead by independent judgment of his own mind. Each man must live as himself and to follow his own rational self-interest, the pursuit of his rational happiness. And it's logically and morally superior to altruism. So she has this thought of selfishness, which we have all been thinking, selfish it has such a negative connotation. But to her, she doesn't mean it in the way where you're going to be selfish by stepping on other people and hurting others. It's more of a find your purpose, make that purpose happen, achieve it, and don't hurt others on the other way. Respect their same right that you have, which is their fight to find purpose as well. So it's kind of like doing it in a harmony way, where you're not intruding on others' happiness and they're not intruding on yours. She did believe altruism was evil. So, in a nutshell, altruism is just this belief that we need to do things for others. We need to help others. And in her mind, that's just holding you back and making you feel guilty for wanting to pursue your own happiness and your own interest. She also believed that by doing this, it would eventually help others along the way, because like Hank, the metal that Hank had created, had he been able to sell it and make a great profit of it, he would have kept on creating this metal that would eventually would have helped the whole economy. It would have created jobs, it would have created a safer material, and so on. And because we have this idea, or in the book, that we have to put others' needs before us, this potential was stopped of creating, his own self-purpose while also aiding others, not as the main purpose, but aiding others throughout the journey. And these are my references. Thank you.